Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Thank you for staying with us. Well, that was a way to start, and that leads us straight to the conversation earlier promoted on President Tinubu's first foreign assignment and how such opportunities could be more effectively maximized going forward. Now, our guest is here, and his name is Dr. Efem Ubi, an associate professor and acting director of research and studies, Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. He's also a highly recommended Russian expert, and part of his assignment this morning on the morning show will be to help us make sense of the intense outflow of events in Russia since yesterday. Good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here too. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
All right then. Good morning. So let's start with the Global Financial Summit. Now, Nigeria's participation in this summit in Paris, of course, presents an opportunity for strategic collaborations and partnerships. Just before the break, we were talking about the 520 million that is going to be focused on agro-progression, and then how important that is for Nigeria. But what other specific areas of focus or key sectors do you believe that Nigeria needs to prioritize in order to maximize the benefits and opportunities arising from this summit?
Well, thank you very much for having me. First of all, I think I need to correct my name. My name is Efem Ubi, not Eme Ubi, Efem Ubi. As we all understand, the last financial pact summit that was held is of importance and is of necessity in this present world. If you have noticed over the last few years, you find out that not just Nigeria, the whole system, the global system is in turmoil, especially as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which actually undermined a lot of economies, and especially the developing world, which Nigeria is part of. And so this Global Financial Pact meeting, which is to kind of reset the agenda for the international financial system, came at the nick of time. And one thing, too, we also have to consider is the fact that our president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is actually doing the right thing, by his first outing shows that economic diplomacy is going to take a toll in his administration. And if you look at the meetings that were held, both the sideline meetings, aside the main summit, and even with the meeting with the African Development Bank, you find out that his administration holds prospect for Nigerians. And I also want to say that, with regards to the outcome and of the meeting, you see, what matters most is pragmatism, is implementation of those outcomes. And aside that, we also have to understand that rebuilding the economy is supposed to take a gradual process. It's not just something that can happen overnight. Well, if you have to take into consideration the fact that over the last 8 years, our economy, domestic economy, has not been faring well based on the fiscal policies and monetary policies that were implemented. And aside that, it undermined a whole lot of sectors. And so, critically speaking, sectors like agriculture should be given more credence in this administration. The energy sector, especially the building of our gas industry, should be given a lot of sectors. If you take into consideration the fact that the Russia-Ukraine war has undermined the global economy with regards to grains, with regards to gas, that should be given an important, it should be taken really, really important. And so the gas sector should be taken seriously. Aside that, we should also look at industrialization. It is very, very key. And I'm happy the African Development Bank, 520 million is towards that sector, the agro-industrial base. We need that. As a matter of fact, we are supposed to be, at this point in time, we're supposed to have food security at this point in time. You know, over the years that we've been independent, I think our agriculture should have taken a toll. And you see, we have to learn from a lot of countries like China in terms of agro-base, how the agricultural sector is working. And so that part should be given consideration. We should move away from subsidized farming to to mechanized farming, and also value additions to the produce that we produce from our farms and all that. I think this will actually give impetus to the economy and grow the economy. Don't forget that, you know, whatever the administration is doing is towards building the domestic economy. And again, you know, foreign policy in itself, you know, the actions or inactions of governments towards state and non-state actors across the globe is to actually build the domestic economy. And so these are certain sectors, maybe we'll discuss more as the question comes, but these sectors I've raised, I've mentioned, agric, our gas-based industries should be enhanced. We should also look at maybe our industrial base, which is the third point I raised. You know, we can't remain, you know, a non-manufacturing state. Even the new African free trade agreement that we signed and the free trade area that we are part of, we also need to produce. We need to sell manufactured goods. We need to sell finished product, not just raw materials or agricultural goods that have not had value addition on it.
All right, Professor Efem, thanks for your initial remarks. But I'd like you to assess in detail the successes or otherwise of the summit itself, because it was very clear about its deliverables. It's essentially about debt relief and then the sort of finance for climate action that the richer countries, you know, could give to the not so rich countries. Some of the ways that international media, you know, have described the outcome is to say that yes, it was it delivers momentum, but it was few on results. So I'd like you to look at it holistically. I mean, did anybody really achieve anything of substance from that summit? And then how will you assess our participation, you know, the participation of our president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Did we just attend, or did we actually participate in the manner that we had a few other presidents, like the South African president, you know, push forward, made decisive statements, participated in some forums, not just on the side meetings with other people, but the actual summit itself? Are you satisfied by what we came out with and how Nigeria was represented?
Too many questions within a short period to answer. First, I will start with the deliverables. For me, the deliverables are okay. But you see, it is one thing to say some things or to promise, and another thing to deliver. You know, the problem we've had over time is that of fulfilling obligations. Yes, for instance, it is being said that the 100 billion expected for climate change action will likely be met this year. There's also the fact that a 200 billion lending capacity has been injected into the system, or will be injected into the system in the next couple of years. And with the issues of climate, debt relief, you know, for instance, there was this talk about the Zambian 6.3 billion debt relief. I think all that, you see, the most important thing is it is about promising and fulfilling these obligations. You know, like some scholars and analysts have actually put forward, that is just like any other meeting that has been going on internationally, other multilateral missions like the G7, G20 and all that. But I don't think we should be looking at it from that perspective. I know this is the first of its kind with regards to the redesigning a new financial system. And, you know, the problem of the developing world, and even Nigeria, you know, it's been that we need equity, we need equality, we need parity. You know, gone are the days that we accept being treated as subservient, you know, to the developed world. Right now, what we're looking for is to be at par with them, to discuss with them. You know, we should fight poverty, we should fight inequality within the international system. You know, I think all this emanated because as at the time, you know, the financial institutions, the major financial institutions were established in 1944. Only 99 countries were independent and were part of it, actually. Only 99 countries were part of it. As a matter of fact, if you look at the history of Africa, you find that many African countries, as at the time, a lot, if not all of them, were not independent. So they were integrated into a financial system that they were never part of. They were not part of the formulation, the modus operandi and all that. And so this is why this meeting is very, very important to the developing world and even to us. With regards to our president's outing, wow, I would say I am truly, truly impressed. You know, this has taken us back and it has been the real focus of what we should be looking for, economic diplomacy. We need to build our economy. Don't forget, like I said in one of the other interviews, Nigeria is a 440 billion GDP, highest GDP in Africa. So South Africa is about 419, Egypt is about 402 billion or so. And now if you look at the GDP growth, I think we are beginning to pick up. And so with this outing, the president has gone to market Nigeria. He is now telling the world and other corporations and other the financial institutions that Nigeria has come of age, you know, with his administration. You see, it's not business as usual. He wants to build the economy. I think his focus is remedying the economy, which has been our major problem. And to be frank, you know, over the last couple of years, you know, we've not really had it nice in terms of our economy. The economy has dwindled. In short, at the point we got to minus in GDP, sometimes zero and all that. Anyway, today, although as at last year we were about 3 point something GDP growth rate. Right now, although we dwindled again to about 2.31% GDP growth rate. So I think with these new moves and with pragmatism and with the fact that we are ready to do what it takes in terms of policy formulation, in terms of policy implementation, in terms of the reforms in the financial sector and the physical sector in Nigeria, in terms of reforms in the agricultural sector, in terms of reforms within in science and tech, I think we make headways. You know, like you said, you know, his administration is also focused on giving advantage to the youth with regards to technology. I mean, ICT based. You know, so most of his job creation will be in that sector. And so this is a time that we need to bring in partners, development partners. We need to bring other corporations who are involved. You know, we need to develop our fintech and all that. And so I think the president is doing the right thing, and he has actually done what he should do. I think the marketing was really, really good. So I think for me, I see the fact that we have come back to the era of public diplomacy and we have come back to the era of commercial diplomacy, which is what this government really needs to build the economy in the next 4 years and into the nearest future.
Well, all right. Steve had asked you how you will assess Tinubu's participation at the Global Financial Summit. As it's been said, a key highlight of the president's participation was to seek support and collaboration with foreign investors and financial institutions to solidify the country's ailing economy. We are yet to see that. You have said that you are impressed with his outing because he's gone out to market Nigeria. I mean, I'm not even sure what that means. And you have said we should cut him some slack since it's his first trip. But I'm going to move over. Now, the president has left Paris for the United Kingdom on a private visit. Let me land on my question.
Sorry.
Let me finalize my question. I'm just saying.
Okay.
You've You've expressed your point, and I'm sure that our viewers listened to you carefully. Now, the president has left France to the United Kingdom on a private visit after attending the summit. Now, would you say this is a good time for the president to be embarking on such private visits with so much left undone, subsidy palliatives still up in the air? Some analysts have said that other presidents return home, and he left, he's still out there. What's your take on that?
My take would be that that is his private business, and as a...
So is this the right time for him to be embarking on a private visit?
Well, I can't determine the president's private movements. You know, we don't have a right to do that. He knows why he's on that private visit, and so I don't think we have to give any judgment on that. I also like to say this. You know, I realize that, you know, Nigerians, you know, we criticize a lot. We spend 90% of our time criticizing and only 5% looking for solution. And that's why we have a lot of problems. For me, I think, you know, he's gone on his private visit. I think that should be left to him. You know, we cannot ask the president why he's gone there, but I think he has his purpose and reasons for doing that. And so that, in that sense, I don't think I am the right person to answer that. I think that question should be sent to someone else, you know, who might be able to answer that, you know. I think I want to reserve my comments with that.
All right, and you also wanted to clarify your point about the president marketing himself in France or marketing Nigeria in France.
Yes, marketing Nigeria in France, not himself, you know. Which I call public diplomacy, or which I call commercial diplomacy, which is also could be seen as image building. You know, at this point in time, the economy needs to be reconstructed in such a way that we attract foreign investment and investors to Nigeria. There are already policies from the last administration that has already been put in place, you know, to give solace to our ailing economy, to build the ailing economy. And with him coming, and within much recent policies that he has implemented, I think there is room for progress. And what I wanted to actually say is that I think it is too early for us to start seeing the dividend of his administration. It's not been there for, it's just been there for a few, 1 month or so, 1 month plus or so. Not even up to a month, sorry. And we cannot start seeing the dividend of what he is doing. And anyway, this is his first major outing. I think it is left for us as Nigerians to give him some form of credence, you know, and wait for a little while and see whether these policies that he has implemented or this policy he wants to adopt and inject into the system, or a policy or reforms that is injected into the system, will actually give succor to the Nigerian economy. I think it's too early for us, you know, to start looking at the dividend of all this. But, you know, the most important thing that he has attracted investors, you know. For instance, African Development Bank is injecting 520 million. We've not even talked about, they're actually building an energy plant in Nigeria. There's also a bank that the African Development Bank has set up in Nigeria, and a host of other investors who are also coming in. The last few, I think last week or so, or 2 weeks ago, we saw Bill Gates came into the country and all that. And, you know, I think this is a good start for the presidency. And I think I'm glad he's taking most of these moves. You know, he understands the problem of Nigeria with regards to the economy. And that has been his major focus, even if you listen to his campaign speeches and if you listen to his inaugural speech and all that. And so then another issue I should raise actually, which I didn't raise, was the issue of security. You know, aside the ailing economy, investors also run away from insecurity. You see, when there's no security, there's no guarantee of safety of lives and all that, and property. It makes a lot of investors not want to invest in the country. And now this is another area he should guarantee the international community, and another area he should focus on, you know, to build security within the country. More so, he should align with our partners, the developed countries, to build to inhibit insecurity in Nigeria. Now, the whole of the Sahel, it's one of the hotspots in today's international system. That should be another focus, because a lot of countries are there, even the developed world, they find themselves there. And, all this is what will actually build the domestic economy and enhance Nigeria's image internationally. Okay. And so I think he will, I'm optimistic that he will do that.
Okay, thank you, Professor Ubi, for setting the tone of that conversation. Now, you've lauded the government's policy on the unification of Naira exchange rate, the domiciliary account restrictions removal, but the current administration, of course, believes that that would unlock huge potentials for investments and create jobs and capital flows, and also enhancing investor confidence in the economy. But apart from the immediate short and long-term positive effects of that unification policy, the summit also presented an opportunity for bilateral and multilateral engagement. Are there any specific countries or international organizations that Nigeria should have aimed to engage with during the summit? Now, I think another thing that we're also trying to hone on in is the fact that even though this was this was a good optics for the current administration, we weren't necessarily outlined as to what outcomes or agreements were anticipated, and as what kind of significant impact it would have on Nigeria's economy and development agenda. You've spoken about the 520 from the AFCB. That's great, but outside of that, what other relationships should we be looking at to help push Nigeria's economy and development agenda?
Well, you see, in international politics, as a whole, and with regards to summit meetings, when presidents attend summit meetings, multilateral meetings, there are other sideline talks, between the president and business, the business community, maybe of that country, another or international business community. There are meetings with the financial institutions like World Bank and IMF and other multilateral financial institutions, whether across the globe, not specific to the major institutions that were set up by the Bretton Woods system. And so he has meetings with most of these. And aside that, I'm sure he must have had sideline meetings, even though it wasn't reported. But you see, the meeting he had with the diaspora, which is also very important, that I didn't mention, is that, if you look at many countries, I wouldn't say developing world like China. China sometimes sees itself as a developing world. China, India, you find that the diaspora community play a big role in terms of building the domestic economy. And so I think since he's in France, he had to meet the diaspora in France and all that, and to tell them to come back home to invest and a whole lot. I would like to also say, with regards to, sorry, what was the next question you were talking about? I can't remember again. Too many things.
No, we're talking
with
about
regards to Tinubus.
So I'm saying, like, outside of the optics,
Sorry?
what should the focus be when it comes to, we're spoken about like multilateral engagements and like the countries that we should be partnering in now to push forward our economic agenda even more?
Well, what we need to understand is the fact that whatever meeting you are attending, whether at the summit level or at the ministerial level, it's for your national interest. Now, economics is also part of our national interest. Aside the other territorial integrity, sovereignty, and all that, economics is also our national interest. So when you see, let me just give this elementary definition of foreign policy: is to have access to resources you don't have at home, or you don't have enough at home. And so whenever you are this kind of meetings, all you need to do is to build partnership with the developed economies, is to build partnership with the multilateral financial institutions, and actually look for investment back home. right now, like I say, we need to build our economy. We need to industrialize. I think what we really need is that industrial base. And you see, for me, when you attend a meeting like that, I don't know, what we advise is the fact that you try to, when you, for example, with the multilateral corporations, you tell them to come and build the industries here. You tell them to come and set up the industries. And sometimes if they can't come, let them offshore an aspect of the industry or let them outsource aspect of the industry to the home economy. In that sense, in that case, you're also learning and acquiring technology. In that sense, you're also building the employment opportunities for the citizens of that country. And so I think in many of these meetings, that is exactly what our delegates do, building, attracting investment, attracting investor. And you could see this since 1999, all the presidents that have traveled for multilateral meetings, at the summit level, this is exactly what they do, trying to attract investment and investors. And so I believe, the president, aside the few meetings that we have notice of, he has also had other series of meetings because there was the World Bank president was there, the IMF MD, managing director was there and all that. And so, at least our own African Development Bank CEO was there and all that. So you find out that these are the people you need to really discuss with to bring back investment. And importantly, I think we should also begin to talk about debt relief or debt forgiveness, because one very serious aspect of debt is debt sustainability. With the low economy or the dwindling economy in many countries, it's very difficult for them to sustain their debt. And so we should begin to go back to the discourse of debt debt forgiveness or debt relief, which is also we need. Zambian, that of Zambian has been taken note of in this Global Financial Pact. We also need to put our case forward, I'm sure this is an area that we will start discussing, in the nearest future with the multilateral institutions and the bilateral debts we have with other countries, because we have more of our debt is with the multilateral institutions, the Western multilateral financial institutions, and we have bilateral debts with China, with Germany and other countries, France and all that, and India. So these people, we need to start talking with them too, And the financial policy that has been put in place, is also very attractive now, to investors. I remember somebody asked me how he wants to move his finances, in terms of the convertible currency abroad. He was looking for how he was going to move it. So that was some few years ago, and I said, I don't know how that is done and all that. And so, but now, he has given room for them to move their capital. But in moving that capital, it also has to be through investment and
all right.
And businesses across.
All right, Prof. Let's move the conversation towards Russia, because I know that that's also up your alley. What happened in Russia yesterday. Aside the context, to what happened there, very short-lived kind of mutiny. A lot of people said it was looking like a coup, but of course the word being used is that it was a mutiny between the Wagner Group and, of course, Kremlin. Beyond the analysis that I would love you to give as to the import of what happened in Russia yesterday, and now it might affect the war with Ukraine, I would like to ask you two other specific questions, and I hope that you don't mind that it is also a combo this time around. One is to situate what happened in Russia yesterday with what President Emmanuel Macron said in Paris about the fact that Russia is destabilizing Africa because of the engagement of Russian militia, Russian-based military contractors that are being used instead of the French guaranteed gendarmeries that ordinarily would be those that are being used in French-speaking Africa. What does that portend, in Africa? Are we about to witness the mystification of Russia and the likelihood of Africa or some African countries engaging with Russia reducing? And then secondly, if you can also tie that to the whole point of using militia or non-state actor security forces. In Nigeria here, we know what we're experiencing. Apart from the fact that we have essentially contracted out the security of our pipelines in the Niger Delta to non-state actors. We were being told only recently when Asaidu Kubo visited new President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that even the security of the Kaduna-Abuja road is due to his own people, not even to the Nigerian military, which he castigated, as you know, very badly. My point is that the sort of a thing that has happened in Russia with the Wagner Group, almost saying that, hey, we're not just mercenaries, we also can, give it a go. Are we not sowing a similar kind of seed in Nigeria by the way that we are not just welcoming non-state actor security forces, but entrusting many of our security assignments onto them?
Huge question. Let me start with the scenario in Russia over the last couple of days. Well, what has happened is very uncanny. It's not palatable that the Wagner Group leader,
Prigozhin.
I've forgotten his name anyway.
Prigozhin.
The Wagner Group leader, Prigozhin actually went to that extent, in order to undermine the regime in Kremlin and all that. But I think in Moscow. But I'm happy that within a short period he had to do a turnaround, trying to, give room for peace. And anyway, he was also given a chance to deflect to Belarus, and he will not also be prosecuted. But I think, so many scholars and analysts will have a position that might not be the same. For the West, for instance, you say they call it a coup and all that. Some call it mutiny and all that. I think this is different nomenclatures for what has happened. And he himself had his own reasons for what happened. He complained about how the Russian military was given an impetus to genocide and not enough amount of weaponry and all that supplies were given to his troops. Yes, but I think what has happened is not really going well for the Putin's administration. And so the faster they resolve that issue, the better for Russia and the global system. More so with regards to the presence of Russians that President Macron talked about, in Africa. I don't think it's only Russians that are in Africa. Everybody is in Africa. Everybody is in Africa. And what I mean by everybody, I mean a lot of countries, even amongst the developed world, they are all in Africa. If you want to really understand how many of these countries are in Africa, look at the number of bases that these countries have across Africa. Also look at the Sahel, how many countries are in the Sahel. They are buying bases and reselling bases and all that. So just go there and you find out that they are all here. I think part of the problem of Africa, it's caused by it's from an external dimension. It's not really from within, And so I think like I said, at my initial discourse, that it is high time that we now look up to our development partners, whether military, those we have military cooperation with, to come and help us fight insecurity. Insecurity is not a one country thing. No one country can manage insecurity, can actually provide or mitigate insecurity or inhibit insecurity. it's a global thing. It's something that is supposed to come from a concerted effort. And sometimes you bring these multilateral troops, and everybody, the crisis is actually degenerating in the more. So you find out that there are some form of dicey play within some of these arrangements. And so I think it's not just the Russians. Everybody is here in Africa. Go to, like I said, just take a snapshot of the Sahel and other countries in Africa. You find that a lot of countries are here. Now, with regards to I want to use the word privatization of war, which is much recently portrayed by Russia, with the Wagner Group. I think that has always been a long-standing thing of history. It has happened. There have been mercenaries ever since civilization, and so this is not something that is new. With regards to Nigeria, the question you asked and all that, I don't think we are actually degenerating into that kind of situation, and we are actually not in a war situation. And so what Asari Dokubo said, I really can't substantiate, because I don't have clarity of data, and I actually have not seen any data portraying what he has said, his position in terms of guiding Abuja, Kaduna, and all that. I don't really know about that. I'm only hearing it from him, the first time.
Well, it has not been denied, Prof.
For us, I think
nobody has denied it. He spoke in Aso Rock, and it has not been denied by anybody. It has not been denied by anybody, and it says clearly that it is being paid for.
That's where I disagree with you, because I don't think the government should be denying an individual who come out to the press, and make a statement, a loud statement, or you want the Nigerian military to actually come out. You'll be giving credence to that kind of person. I think this is something that is supposed to be handled by the security agencies themselves. And let him explain what he meant by all that. The last administration actually gave a pipeline security to private individuals, and all that. I think that was the administration. That is actually what they wanted to do. It's a government thing, it's not something that the government know and understand why it did what it did, And so with regards to that, I think, for me, I think that we should be looking forward to the future. We should be looking forward to how we can resolve most of these issues that are actually coming up much recently and all that. It's a building time. It's a time that we need to build a country. We need to bring the country together, all of us coming together to look for solution. It's a very critical time, not only for Nigeria, but across the globe. You see Senegal, there's conflict ongoing, Burkina Faso and all that, So this is a time that we all need to work together.
Okay. All right, Professor. Thank you very much, Professor Efem Ubi, Associate Professor and Acting Director of Research and Studies, Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. Thank you very much indeed.